Welcome back to Leaders Recon. My name is Javi, and in this episode I'm gonna go over how I plan routes. Currently I'm in my house, my bedroom. We have visitors over and decided I'm gonna take this time to do this video and show you all how I plan routes. Now, the programs that I use, I'm not sponsored by any means. These are just the programs that I use to help me prepare and plan for the routes that I'm about to take. And I felt, I get asked by people, how do you plan your routes? How do you find your routes? How do you know which routes work best for other people or for yourself? And pretty much I use two main apps, but there are many different resources out there. It's entirely up to you what you use. I use Gaia GPS as well as Trails Off Road, and once again, I'm not sponsored by them. And those are the two main apps that I use. A little bit about myself, my background. As I mentioned earlier, I served in the Marine Corps for 8 years, and one of the biggest things that we prided ourselves was in navigation. Always knowing where you're at. In the 80s and 90s, we had to use regular paper maps and compasses to navigate through. But with technology, we have apps on our phones, we have iPads, our cars, GPSs. We just have so many different technologies, and it's great that we can implement those technologies to help us find wonderful trails and routes for us to go out and actually explore. And so I'm a firm believer in planning, because in the Marine Corps we used to use this saying, the 6 P's. Prior planning prevents piss poor performance. And if we don't plan properly, our performance in the long run is not going to be that good. It's not going to cut the mustard. So, as I mentioned earlier, what I use when I go out, I get in front of my computer and I map out what I'm going to go. So in this case, I'm going to map a route out in the Kofa National Wildlife Refuge. I went there a couple weeks ago. I enjoyed it so much that I am going to plan this route to go out there again, which I'm planning on doing next week. That way you could see the fruits of my labor. Once I get this mapped out, then I'll be able to incorporate it next week when I go overlanding. A lot of times you have to plan on who's going with you, the capabilities of their vehicles, and the difficulties of the trail. I have a 4-wheel drive pickup truck, full-size pickup truck, so I have to kind of tailor my trails to a high clearance, full width road that is capable for my full-size pickup truck to go through. I also have friends who have high clearance vehicles but are not 4-wheel drive. So when I go into the programs that I'm going to use, you'll see how I choose my routes and how I choose the trails that I'm gonna go on, so that way everybody can have a challenge, they can explore, and we won't have too many hiccups along the ways, like recovering somebody because they got stuck, which it's not a problem. We'd love that, because then that teaches us more on overlanding, how to recover ourselves from issues. So once again, I use Gaia GPS and Trails Off-Road. I also have a Garmin Overlander GPS, and I use that as well because it's always good to have a number of different backups. And when I plan my routes, I set it as a GPX, and then I install it into my Garmin software so that when I turn my Garmin on, it will pick up and download the route that I did. So I will also have that on my Garmin as a backup. I don't necessarily use it a lot, but I do have it as a backup. You always want to have a backup because you're going to be in some situations where you might not have signal, and if you forgot to set your maps to offline, then you're going to have issues. With this Garmin, I don't have to worry about that because it's all going to be backed up on my Garmin, and I'll be using that as I go. Other things you can use is your iPhone or Android phones. I have iPhone, so most of my products is going to be Apple products, but you know, you can use any kind of Android, any kind of iOS products. It really doesn't matter. You know, whatever you have is going to work as long as you have the right softwares downloaded or the right apps downloaded onto your phones. A lot of newer cars that have CarPlay and Android Auto, they do also have Gaia GPS and Trails Off-Road that can be also Onyx. Onyx Off-Road can also be put on or transferred onto your CarPlay, so that way you can actually use your infotainment center as a map, a GPS, and once again, if you have the offline maps, it's going to show on there. I use that. So when I go out, I usually have 3 maps running. Usually is the Trails Off-Road map running in my infotainment center because it shows me where the waypoints are at, where the campsites are at, where to turn, where to go, and all that stuff. On my phone, I usually use Gaia GPS, and then I have my Garmin. So those are the 3 devices that I use. So with that being said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose the route that I'm going to plan. So I live in Arizona, and a lot of people know that Arizona, and I live in the Phoenix area, so it gets hot in the summertime. So normally when I plan routes, I don't plan routes in the desert during the summertime unless you have a capable AC unit. Like I have a trailer. I'm gonna do a video on that, but I have a trailer, and that trailer allows me to go out pretty much anywhere. I can take that trailer wherever my truck goes, and what that trailer does is it has AC and it has heater in there. So when I'm out in a hot area, I can always turn on my AC. Of course, I need to run a generator for it, which I do have one of those, but I can turn on the AC and I'll be comfortable inside my vehicle. But I don't want to do that when I'm solo camping. I'm not going to take my trailer out because it's a pretty big trailer for solo camping. So what I tend to do is in the summertime, I go up north, and in northern California or northern Arizona, there's a lot of pine trees, the elevation's higher, and it's usually 20, sometimes 30 degrees cooler depending on where you go, and at nights it gets really cold, so you don't necessarily need AC unit. So that's what I do. I sometimes bring a fan with me, and that works perfect. During the winter times, fall, winter, is when I actually come out to the desert areas. Hence is the reason I'm planning this trip, because when I did the trip the last time, it was hot, but it wasn't as hot as I thought it would be, because you're amongst the mountains and you get all that mountain air, and so it's a really good place to go. And that's my plans. Fingers crossed that it's not hot. If it is, then you know it's a story to talk about in the future. So what I tend to do is I tend to choose the area that I'm going to go, and in this case I'm going to go to the Kofas. Okay, as you can see here, what I do is when I go to Trails Off-Road, right here, Trails Off-Road, what I do is I open it up, I look for the area that I'm going to go to, and in this case you have the Kofa National Wildlife Refuge, and that's where I'm going to choose my route. If you notice, I've downloaded, or as you come into Trails Off-Road, they have all of these trails that they've mapped out. And if you notice, the trails are kind of color coded. If you scroll down to the corner over here where it says legend, that legend shows you, it shows you what each of those trails mean. Green meaning it's easy, orange moderate, red difficult, severe is black, and extreme is purple. If you also notice above here, you'll notice you have a dotted line or dashed line. Those are scout routes, meaning those routes are not a full-fledged trail guide, but it's a route that the mappers from Trails Off-Road go out, map it out, put it in the system, and are able to show people the trails that they've gone on. Now, in order to see scout routes, you'd have to be a member of Trails Off-Road. You can get this for free, but to be all access, there's a yearly subscription. I believe it's $39. Don't quote me on that, but it's about $39-40 a year, which is not bad. And then you get access to all of these trails as well as the scout routes, and they're constantly popping up scout routes. You know, almost every month I've noticed a new scout route coming on. And then the solid lines are your full trail guides. So if you come back here, you'll notice this trail here. If you click on the actual trail, it pops up a name. And if you notice right there, that one says Charco 4. That's a scout route. So what you can do a number of things. One thing you can do is you can click on it, and that's what I'm about to do. Let me zoom out. So when I click on it, so once you click on it, it actually takes you to a page that shows you over on this left hand side where it looks like a map. It shows you, I'm gonna exit out of here. It shows you the trail, the actual trail, and it's a scout route. And off to the side it has pictures, tells you what are the hardest parts, where you can camp, and then a number of pictures. And if you click on it, it will show you pictures of the route. So as you can see, as you're going through, it starts showing you pictures, sceneries, and stuff like that. So this is interesting. It also shows you things along the way that they've actually seen. I'm gonna exit out of that. The other thing is, if you scroll down here, and this is what I like a lot about Gaia GPS, is it breaks down and gives you trail information. Now, mind you, this is a scout route. It tells you it's easy, it tells you the length, it tells you the highest elevation, and it tells you the road conditions. So this is a graded dirt road. Elevation's 1,507 feet, length is 9.26 miles, and it's a pretty easy trail. What I also like is that over here onto the right hand side, you have multiple options. So as you can see here, you can open this up into the Trails Off-Road app, you can upload it to Gaia GPS, which is the reason why I use these two apps, because of the capabilities of me being able to upload this onto Gaia GPS. So just by the click of your mouse, I've already have it uploaded, but it tells you, you know, if you want to upload it, it's going to ask you to authorize it. I'm not going to do it because it's already in my Gaia, but it goes through and it automatically inputs that into your Gaia. So when I go back to Gaia, if you notice this road right here, that road is charcoal 4, and as you can see when I clicked on it over here, it shows charcoal 4 and it's copyrighted Trails Off-Road. So it makes it very easy. You can go from one app to the other app and you're allowed to do multiple things. So now going back, I'm gonna hit the map. Oh, and before I go any further, as you scroll down, it gives you descriptions, it gives you weather reports, the community consensus. So if you do a review, you can tell if it's easier, if it's harder, if it's spot on as you do trail reviews. As you can see, a couple of people done trail reviews. They tell you whether the trail is open, how they rate it, so forth and so on. So this is a really good app. It's almost like an encyclopedia of trails that they've gone through. So it allows you to use that for you to go ahead and map out your trails. So I'm going to come back to map, which is up here. Once I click on the map, I'm going to minimize this, and there you go. You have Charcoal Road. So what I do to plan is I'll sit here and look at this map, and that's when I decide which trail I want to go. So by the looks of it, this white line here, if you could see, is I-10. There's an exit here which is called Vicksburg Road, going from Phoenix west towards Los Angeles, and I believe is exit 53 is called Vicksburg Road. Once you exit Vicksburg Road, you just head on south and you go onto this Charcoal Road, which is actually, this Charcoal 4 is actually Vicksburg Road. And that's going to take you directly into the Kofa National Wildlife Refuge. You'll notice that as I'm looking at this route, what is it that I want to do? So I've already done this portion of the trail and it was really good. I've done this and I've done this, and that was all in the last video that I did, trail video that I posted. So I'm deciding this time that I have an option of coming down this trail or coming down this trail. And I've decided that when I plan my route, I'm going to plan it going down from here, linking up in this trail, going down this trail, hitting this trail, and finishing up on this trail, but I'm gonna also explore these two smaller ones. So if you don't have these on your Gaia GPS, what you do is you go to each of these, you just open it up. This is King Road. You open that one up, it takes you to King Road. It shows you once again on the map here where it is, where you start. Like here, it's the beginning is over by Arizona 95, but since we're coming in from the back way, we're going to start off on checkpoint or waypoint 11 and work our way towards waypoint 1. And this is an easy route. It's a 2, so it's easy. It's open. It's 24 miles, and one way is about an hour and 30 minutes. It also has a bunch of different documentation here that tells you, you know, elevation, the name of the trail, what's the nearest town, so forth and so on. It also gives you a quick highlight, and if you notice here, you can camp. It's a desert, there's a ghost town, there's mines, and it's very scenic. And a quick rundown history of the trail and whatnot. And then it goes, and this is what I like about the full guided trails. It gives you a lot of detail. So this advanced rating system, so it tells you right here, it's recommended for two-wheel vehicles with high clearance. I have a good friend, one of my best friends has a Toyota Tundra that's a two-wheel drive, but his clearance, I believe, is higher than mine's, and he can get through these trails like it's nothing, you know. So as you notice here, a two-wheel drive vehicle like my friend can go through here with high clearance, and the only obstacles or concerns is going to be deep sand, which that's fine because we have recovery gear. He has a winch, I have a winch, and you know, if we need to use the winches, then we use the winches. If not, you know, we got max tracks and so forth and so on. And then here it tells you, as you can see, people vote on it, and they're not completely spot on, so it's easier than spot on. So that trail that tells you an easy 2, a difficulty 2 might be difficulty mandatory, could be a 2, and optional could be a 1. I mean, it's entirely up to what vehicle you use and how you use it. If you go down further, it goes and talks about each waypoint. What's neat, it shows you on all these waypoints, it gives you pictures so that when you're actually there, you can not get lost and realize, okay, when I get to the trailhead, it will show me, but since we're going in the reverse fashion, we'll be from where the trail ends and working our way all the way to number 1. And if you notice here, it tells you this is the direction out and back. You're able to camp, same thing, out and back, camp spots. Here it tells you is a point of interest, so there are things you might want to get out of your vehicle and look at. Camping, it looks like there's pretty much every spot is camping. You got point of interest, and then over here is a staging area if you're gonna stage. But once again, a lot of helpful information that I get out of here. Once I've downloaded everything onto my Gaia GPS, then I don't need this Trails Off-Road. I don't necessarily shut it down, because sometimes when you're downloading certain things, it doesn't populate itself, and so you're not able to see it here. A quick refresh of the screen sometimes works. Other times you need to go back and into Trails Off-Road and say, hey, I'm going to download this, and it'll tell you already have it, but still go ahead and do it anyway, and it's going to eventually populate. So as you can see, looking at this map here, I'm going to make it a little smaller. You'll notice that the trail that I'm going to do starts here where it says New Hope. I'm going to come down, which that's Vicksburg Road or that Charcoal 4. I'm going to link up to this trail, and it's just going to be a short run. And then I'm going to come down here, which this road here is called the Kofa Manganese Road. So that Kofa Manganese Road, if you can see, once I click on it, it actually just shows the road that goes all the way down to here. So I'm going to exit that. From there, once I get to the end here, I'm going to click on this one here, and that is called Engesser Pass. So once again, I hit that and it shows me Engesser Pass. I'm butchering that name, but hey, it is what it is. And that's going to be the next trail that I'm going to put on my route. And then the final one should be King Road. So if you notice, I'm going to move this over here so you can see it. So then I'm going to link up to this King Road, and that's going to be the ending of my trail. But as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to zoom in here. There's 2 offshoots from these trails that I want to explore. So this one being one of them, and that's called Polaris Mountain. I want to explore there and take a look at that, and maybe use that for a place to camp out. Also, there's another trail over here I want to explore, and that's called Polaris Road. So you got Polaris Mountain on one side and Polaris on the other side, because above it here is the Polaris Mountain. So pretty much that's the route that I am going to set up for myself for this trip. And I'm gonna go ahead and show you how I actually make my routes and why I choose Gaia GPS as the system for me to plan my routes. Okay, earlier I mentioned that the exit was exit 53. I stand corrected. It's actually exit 45. It shows New Hope here, but it's actually Vicksburg Road. So now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to map my route. So I'm going to go ahead and click on here so I can open up this side view here, where it shows me overlay, layers, saved items, preferences, and then it tells me create. So where it says create, it says waypoints, routes, areas, import data, or print the map. I'm going to start with route. Okay, so I've zoomed it up so that you can see it better. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on route. Once I click on route, it's going to show this icon here, gives you some shortcuts as to how to undo, redo, you know, back to the start, out and back, reverse mode, so forth and so on. I'm gonna close this out, and then I'm gonna take and move this map off to the side so I have more movement. If you notice over here, it tells you where it says create route, and it tells you untitled route. Also has a color. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change this color, and I'm going to change it to black. So now my route is going to be on my map black, where it says untitled route. I'm going to rename this untitled route, and I'm going to put I'm gonna make it, call it, let's say Kofa Trail. And since I'm gonna be doing this next week on the 21st and 22nd, I'd like to, you know, mark the dates that I went so that I know, okay, this is when I went. But you can name it however you want to name it. So I'm gonna mark it 10, 21, 23 through 10, 22, 23, because that's where I'm gonna be at. Another thing, if you notice here, it shows you elevations, it shows you ascent, descent, max elevations, minimum elevations, and it says route mode. If you notice on route mode, it automatically goes, you know, the default is hiking, but we're not going to be hiking, so I'm going to go down to driving, and I hit driving. And that's going to be important, because as you start routing this, you're going to see as I go through on this route, it's going to find the trails but that are for driving. If you go hiking, it's going to go on any of the markings here. But once again, I'm going to come over to where it says Pacific Pride. I'm just gonna go a little below it, and I'm gonna click on it. Once I click on it, as you can see, it creates kind of a waypoint, and you see as I scroll down this map, it creates a dotted line. Once I click it again, you'll notice it creates a line, and now it starts inputting information. It tells me my ascent was 34 feet, my descent was 10 feet, the elevation, max and minimum elevation. So now what I do is I'm going to scroll to where I can actually see more of the map. So I'm gonna put that waypoint as high as I can, and I'm gonna scroll down as far down as I can. As if you notice, it automatically draws a line. It automatically draws a line down to the bottom of my map, and then I'm gonna click it again, and you'll see it creates a line on it. So once again, I'm gonna scroll as far as I can go on the map. You could even scroll down further, and pretty much this is all I'm going to be doing to create this route. So as I come all the way down here, if you notice, I'm going to come to this point here, because this is where I'm going to now start heading west to this area over here, and you notice my lines are going to continue on following the trail that I'm going to go down. Come over here, click on here, and then I'm going to continue. Okay, when this happens, I usually wait for it to catch up. If you get a situation as I encountered here, just click on it once, and I'm just gonna delete that point because I don't want that point there. So I'm gonna scroll more here so I can see more of where I'm going. And as you see, I'm gonna follow this trail all the way down, and you'll notice if you get a straight line like this, you've gone a little too far. So I'll move my cursor up a little further, and as you can see, it follows the trail. Then I'll click on it, and pretty much this is what I'm going to do throughout this whole trail. So now I come and I'm going to follow this all the way here. You notice once again it gives me a straight line, so I'm going to go a little further. As you see, it followed the trail. I click on it, and I'm just going to continue on this path. Now if you notice, there's some offshoots here. So when I click on here, you'll notice it followed the trail that I wanted. Sometimes it'll go off these little offshoot trails. I don't want it to go through those offshoot trails, so I'm going to try and go down further. You see how it still follows the trail, and I continue on my path that I'm doing. Once again, you see it. Okay, so now I'm going to continue following that trail all the way down. I'm going to click on down here, see if it follows it. Click on it, and I'm just going to continue doing this. Now if you notice, when I get to this mark here, it doesn't. So I'm going to come here, see if it follows me. Okay, it followed me there. Let's see if I come here, follows me there. So I'm going to click on here. The reason why, if you notice, there's a cabin here called the Hoodoo Cabin. So I want to explore that. So I'm going to come down this trail to the Hoodoo Cabin, and I'm going to hit a waypoint. So that way now I can go to that Hoodoo Cabin. Then I'm going to backtrack it and come down here as far as I can go. Let's see if it lets me. Nope. So now it follows it. I'll click it here. So part of this trail, as you're mapping out your trail, you have to kind of play with the program, because as you can see, if it doesn't want to follow it, it's going to give you a straight line. You don't want the straight line, you want it to follow the trail. So we're gonna continue down this path. As you can see, as I continue down this path, see how it goes to a straight line? I'll move up a little further. It still gives me a straight line. Move a little further. Now follow the trail, then I'll click it. So once I have that, I'll just continue on this trail, and that's all I do with my trail. So now I'm following this trail. It brings me up to here. So as you can see, now I'm on a different trail, that Inverness. So I'm gonna follow this around, and it continues following me around. And all right, that kind of messed up there. Okay, follows me there. I'm going to not worry about that. I'm going to move this, and I'm going to continue following this trail. And you sometimes lose it, but I'm going to continue on here. See, it keeps following me. Then I'm going to continue on down here. Continues following me. Come over here. Continues following me. And pretty much this is all I'm going to do. And I'm going to be coming up to this way. So I'm still following this trail. Now I'm going to zoom out so I can see where am I at, because I want to ensure that I get that offshoot that I want to see, those two, the Polaris and Polaris Mountain. I want to be able to hit that. So I'm going to see if it follows. You see how it goes straight line? That's fine. I'll bring it down a little further over here. It still gives me a straight line. Bring it over here. So now I'm able to click on that. See if it follows me. Click on that. As you can see, it goes up here to this Polaris Road. I'm going to zoom back in so I can see the trail a little better, because now here what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it up to the end here, and it follows me. Now the problem is as you can see, I'm going to click on here. You see how it doesn't want to do that? So now I'm going to come all the way down here, and you'll notice it's following me still. I'm following down the trail. So now as you can see, I'm going to follow it down here. I'm going to click on here, because now this is that other offshoot road. And I'm going to come all the way up here and see as it follows me. I'm going to try and see if it follows me to the end. And it follows me to the end. Once I get to the end there, then I'm going to scroll back down to where I was at and continue down this path. So now this is going to probably be the ending of the trail. So as you see, I clicked on it and it created a straight line. I don't want a straight line, so I'm going to delete that. I'm going to come back to see if it follows the road. It follows the trail. So the biggest issue you're going to have is it following the route, the trail that you're going on. So now I'm coming over here. I'm going to see if it follows me. It follows me. I continue on. Continues on. Nope. Nope. Come up here. Follows me there. So pretty much all I'm doing is continuing on following the trail that I'm going to take until I get to the end. And the end is going to be right here next to the 85. Once that is done, okay, you see how it did not do it? So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to delete that waypoint because I want it to follow the trail. Follow the trail, hit the end, and now, as you can see, I've completed the trail. It's going to tell me a lot of information. It's an 88-mile trail. We're going to be ascending 4,677 feet. Maximum elevation is going to be 2,464 feet, and the minimum is going to be 1,169 feet. On notes here, I'm just going to put used for episode 3. And once all this is said and done, I've got the trail done. I go ahead and I hit save. Now I've saved that route onto Gaia GPS. But it's not over yet. So now, as you can see, I'm going to look at my entire trail, and you can see my entire trail on the map right here is going to show the entire trail that I've just created. So now I've created my trail, my route that I'm going to go and do. So now that you've seen how I go ahead and map out routes, I hope this video is helpful for you. I know it's a bit kind of long, but I just didn't want to miss out on anything. You'll notice, you'll catch an error when I was originally doing the video. Before I go into editing, I lost the actual video that I was showing you, but I went ahead, redid the trail, redid the route. And so you'll notice that the mileage, whereas before was 88 miles, now it shows 85 miles. It doesn't matter because it's the same mileage, so to speak, and it's the same trail that I'm going on. But as you can see, it's not too difficult if you have the right stuff. Now, I haven't played too much with Onyx, and I know Onyx is also a great software for going out on trails. That was actually the first software app that I used, and if you see my truck and I have all these pinstripes, it's because I did not know how to use it and wound up going down trails that my truck should have never gone down, which put me in the doghouse. So yes, I don't do that. I use now Trails Off-Road because you get to see the trail, you get a lot of pictures. Also with Trails Off-Road, they show a video of the trail, so it gives you kind of an insight as to what you're up against, and it's an excellent app. Kudos to Trails Off-Road. Without them, I'd be exploring and probably be putting myself in some pretty bad situations. So that being said, I hope you enjoy the video. If you do, hit that like button and subscribe so that you get more context. I'll be making another video here soon using this actual trail that I mapped out. I'll be going out into the Kofas and actually exploring that trail and the route that I just did. Once again, this is Javi with Leaders Recon. Semper Fi, Leaders Recon out.